checking out this nice little 8-game Major League Baseball slate. Before I get started, can you guys smash that like and subscribe button? It really helps the channel a lot. I really do appreciate it. With this slate, we do have some weather concerns, and the Kansas City game has wind and rain weather potentially, and this Colorado game has a weird wind issue. So there's a potential that one or both of those games could have some issues today. So, but those are the only two weather issues on this entire slate, or even on the early slate as well. So, with that said, we do have some teams that are stackable. That would be Houston, San Diego, Kansas City, and Boston are the top stacks. Seattle, Toronto, and Tampa Bay are secondary stacks. And then your one-off uh, player teams are the Angels, Atlanta, and the Chicago White Sox in Colorado. So those are kind of where we're at. Texas, Milwaukee, New York Yankees, Arizona, and San Francisco are definitely a lot riskier today. So with that said, let's get into our pitching here. Now we'll start with Gosman for Toronto. He's going to face the Yankees, and he has absolutely been phenomenal last season. In 4 games against them, he had 36 strikeouts and had 39, 27, 33, and 22 fantasy points against them. He is expensive today, but he has started the season pretty solidly with a good game against Tampa Bay where he scored 18 fantasy points. I expect him to have another good day here and get that strikeout rate up because he has absolutely massive strikeout potential here. Not only that, but this slate features just only a couple guys that have more than a big good opportunity for 5 strikeouts. So Gosman is a great play on the slate. Looking at other options, Michael Wacha for Kansas City faces the White Sox, who've been pretty abysmal so far, and so I do like his potential here. He doesn't have the big strikeout rate, but I expect him to have some solid upside on this matchup. Then we'll have 4 GPP plays for you and kind of value plays as well. One being Marcus Freed for Atlanta. Now, he didn't start the season very well in his first game against Philly, but he should be able to bounce back here and have a decent strikeout rate day. He has a pretty good matchup here against Arizona, and it doesn't look like that, in my opinion. I don't think Arizona is going to fare too well against him, so I think he's a viable GPP play. King for San Diego is also a good GPP play today. He did not start the season particularly great, but he does have good upside in this matchup. And San Francisco is pretty weak now. He did face them already once and scored 11.6 fantasy points. I think he can have a similar type day or better on this one. And he's a little bit cheaper than he was. So I think if he can get a few strikeouts, that would definitely boost his fantasy output because he didn't get many in that last game. Looking at Garrett Whitlock, Whitlock is a decent GPP play. The Angels and the Red Sox both look like kind of decent plays today, but the pitching from this game could take over and could be pretty solid. Whitlock has a good upside and has a decent strikeout potential, so he's definitely somebody I will take a look at as a kind of a contrarian option. And the same goes for Detmers on the other side of the ball. Now, Boston's hit the ball well, but I do think that he has some upside here, and he is sneaky good at times. And he has a pretty good. He's actually the second best strikeout rate guy on this entire slate. So he's definitely somebody that has some potential. And he also had a pretty good game against Boston last season. So I do think that he's a viable option here. That's what I have for pitchers. Let's go ahead and get into our other position players. So when we look at this, we're going to start with our catchers here. And Yanir Diaz for Houston looks like a great player on the slate. He has pretty good home run upside today, the best at the catching position, and he's just an overall good hit rate, and has a lot of upside as a result. Campozo for San Diego is also very interesting today. He started the season very well. He's got a really good hit rate for this game, and he has just as much home run upside as Diaz does. I think those two guys are going to be pretty popular on the slate in general. Uh, I also think Salvador Perez will be popular. Perez has been a pretty good player for us so far this season, as he had a really good game yesterday. He was one of my favorite catchers yesterday as well. He has been several days already, and he has a really good upside here. His price is a little bit higher than the two others I mentioned, but I think those top 3 guys are going to have a lot of potential today, and so you can kind of just go with whichever one, especially if you stack one of those teams, and just go with the guy you stack, or the team you stack there. Later at first base, this base does feature some value plays at the top here, like Cronenworth. Cronenworth looks like San Diego looks like a really good stack on the slate. They do have a pretty good total against San Francisco, and I expect them to have a good opportunity to win this game. I like Cronenworth here. He doesn't always have the greatest situational stats, but this particular game, he has an absolutely monster hit rate, and home run upside. So I think he's a viable option, especially at his price. He's just nice and cheap, and helps you pay up other places. But if you want to go expensive here, you can either go with Yandy Diaz for Tampa Bay, who has very favorable matchup metrics here. And then the contrarian would be Matt Olson, who hit a home run yesterday for the Braves. Now, I don't think the Braves are going to be a big stackable team today, as they got a little bit tougher matchup, but I do think that they have some guys that are viable. Pasquanto for Kansas City, Perez for Kansas City, and Vlad Jr. are all going to be kind of contrarian plays. And then Jose Abreu for Houston also has some limited upside on the slate. Looking at second base, we do look at see here, Jose Altuve is our top play. Now Altuve had hit the ball really well to start the season. He didn't have a big game yesterday like I hoped, but he does have good metrics and has good upside here. He has decent home run potential today, not as good as yesterday, but I think he has a good opportunity to have a solid game here. I think this Houston Texas game is going to be extremely high scoring, so definitely try to get some involvement there. Marcus Simeon also for Texas is going to be a really solid from that game at least. He's going to have a really solid upside. He had a huge game yesterday, and I look for him to continue to have solid opportunities here. He has the best home run rate at this position. And then another guy that you could also look at is Xander Bogaerts for San Diego. He also has really good upside at this position. I think for second base, either using San Diego, Houston, or Texas guy is probably your best bet. There's not a lot of value at this position today unless you want to get in that Colorado game, which is going to be, kind of a Hail Mary option today on this particular slate. But Kim for San Diego, also somebody that I would look at as kind of a value play. Looking at our third baseman, third base is pretty deep today. There's quite a few guys that have some good upside in this one. On the top being Paredes for Tampa Bay. Basically, being in Colorado really does help here, and he's going to have some good hitting metrics for this one. Not the biggest home run upside guy, but he should be a popular play uh, aside from the fact that he's priced up. He does really have some good potential, though. Machado is a good contrarian option. Really do like the San Diego game. And he's going to have a really big home run upside as well as this good hitting upside today. Now, he hasn't hit the ball particularly well, but this looks like a game that he can kind of get going and have a lot of potential as he's not had a hit in 3 straight games. I think he'll bounce back today and have a nice, solid game. But you could also look at Austin Riley and Bregman and also Garcia for Kansas City, who I've liked quite a few days this season so far, and he's paid off in a couple of them. I think he's going to have some potential again today, as he has some good metrics, and he's nice and cheap, which helps as well. He's probably my favorite cheap option at this position. Kind of a Hail Mary play would be Moncada for the Chicago White Sox. So, later shortstops, we do have some guys here that have really good potential today. Shortstop sometimes can be a wacky position, but Bobby Witt Jr. is just a clear cut top option. Now, he's obviously super expensive and he's going to be hard to roster. And yesterday he didn't do anything, but I think he's going to bounce back here and have an absolutely monster game. He has great home run metrics, great hitting metrics. He's got still a base potential. Everything about him looks really solid today, so he looks like a great option. Machado and Bogarts can also play here, which I already mentioned, as can Kim. And then, but Corey Seager would be another guy that I would look at pretty extensively from Texas, as he's hit the ball very well to start the year. He's got really good home run metrics for this one as well. There's really 4 guys at shortstop that have home run upside. That's Witt, Seager, Bogarts, and Machado. It's pretty rare to have that many guys that have that kind of situational power. So definitely like shortstop today, though it is fairly expensive. If you wanted to get into value plays, you could look at Kim, like I mentioned, from San Diego. You could even look at Trevor Story, maybe, and then Pena and Arcia. So Pena from Houston and Arcia from Atlanta can be one-off guys. Okay, so then we're looking at outfielders, and of course we're going to have a lot of outfield options today, but Acuna is going to be a top overall play. He's obviously fairly expensive. He's not hit a home run yet this season, so he is due. He does have still a base potential, even though he's only had one so far this season. But I look for him to be a really big potential play on the slate. He's obviously very expensive, so he's going to be hard to roster. Ironically, you can get a really the best home run upside guy on this entire slate at almost 1,000. Well, he's $800 cheaper, and that's Jordan Alvarez, who has absolutely got good opportunity here to have a huge home run day. This game is going to be high scoring, this Houston Texas game, and so I want Alvarez at least mixed in some of my lineups because he looks like a really solid option today. He's going to be fairly popular and pretty chalky, I would guess, as well. Um, Abisil Garcia is almost the same price, well, a couple $100 cheaper, and he's also in play for this as a good home run upside guy and just a good hitter. He's, I think he's going to be a highly sought after option alternatively to Alvarez. Though I might try to find a way to make a lineup where I put Alvarez and Garcia in here. I think this is going to be a popular thing to do, and this team is very stackable. You can also look at Kyle Tucker, but he doesn't have that home run upside from that game. Some value plays here. Velasquez for Kansas City looks like a very solid option today. He has got good metrics for this game, has a lot of potential, and he's hit the ball extremely well to start the year. He has a really good home run upside in this one too, and he's dirt cheap, and so I really like that. That gives us a lot of value to help the other positions, and so he makes a favorable situation there. Uh, Marcel Ozuna uh, for 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 Atlanta, also very interesting today. He has been somewhat inconsistent, but he has 3 home runs already, and he has hit the ball fairly well in certain games, and he's not striking out a ton yet. So I think he's a viable option on the slate, though he's mid priced, and but he does have that good home run potential, and that's one thing I really like about this guy. He does tendency to have big home run days. O'Neill for Boston, Palacios from Tampa Bay, Blackman from Colorado, Siri from Tampa Bay, Carter and Langford both from Texas. They all have some upside in the slate. Also, Holy for San Francisco and Soler from San Francisco would all be guys that I would consider at this position. So, with that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. If you have any comments, feel free to leave them below. Make sure to check the links in the description for Discord and for